The Coonhound Collective podcast is brought to you by CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Dog boxes built by hunters for hunters. Check these guys out today. This is your host, Jason Snellgrove, and I will be your guide as we journey down the road to pleasure hunt or hitting the long trail to those great comp hunts. This is the Coonhound Collective podcast. Welcome to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. Today we are going to talk some black and tan dogs with Mr. Bruce Gilliman. Mr. Bruce, how's it going?
Doing fine, thank you.
Well, I sure appreciate you joining me today, and I'm excited to talk to you. I am a black and tan guy at heart. I do have some other colored dogs right now here. I have a couple of black dogs, but I have black and tans have a special place in my heart for sure. So I sure glad that we were able to get together and get this done and talk about some of the hounds that you had. So won't you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
I live in the northeast corner of Alabama, Jackson County, and out in the country. But the closest town to me, our mailing address, I guess, is Woodville. So Woodville, Alabama, that's kind of where I call home, and we've got kind of a mixed collection of hunting here. We got mountains, and I live between two of them back up in the holler, which is where the name Dark Hollow came from. And of course, we got some bottom ground and stuff that we hunt too. It's right here along the Tennessee River. But anyway, grew up here, lived here my whole life, and coon hunted all my life. My dad had these dogs, black and tan hounds, my first memories, and he kind of said I don't remember it, of course, but he said he toted me around on his neck at night, and when I was too little to keep up, and I think he tried a couple of times to break me, but so I would give him some reprieve, but I don't think that worked. He said it didn't work out, so I've been coon hunting my whole life, I reckon.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my same story. My dad hunted a little bit, and then my stepdad was a big time hunter, and I went with them quite a bit. So sounds like y'all have always had black and tans. I guess is that the breed of choice for you? That's just what suits you best.
Yes, when I first got my first memories, some of my first memories, my dad, Johnny, he's coon hunted his whole life. That what part of it I knew at least, and he got me started and always took me, and that was my kind of my hero. My dad was, and my hunting buddy and hunting partner when I got old enough to start campaigning dogs. And some of my first memories, he and Johnny Lawson up in Illinois had gotten to be friends, and we had some dogs out of Lawson's big house, and actually had house at the house for a while. And anyway, those were had some good things with that bloodline, and we've mixed some stuff over the years. Some old stuff that I can't even remember what it went back to be honest with you, but it had some big mouths and good nose, and a lot of energy, and that's kind of we hunted those, and later on when dad wound up buying a dog, a couple of pups, and they were out of Jones Southern Rambler, which is the old Rambler breed, Tennessee Rambler breed, and the best one, something happened to him. We were letting him run loose out on the farm, and he got into something he didn't need to be in, I guess, and it killed him. But we wound up with the other one, and he was probably one of the better hounds I've ever followed. He just had a knack for treeing coons, and a seemed like you could talk to him and he could understand you. Kind of eerie, sometimes the fooling with him. But the anyway, that's kind of what we done. We kind of mixed some of the old Lawson's Hoss breeding, and seemed like they had plenty of tree power, had plenty of nose. The Rambler strain that we got a hold of and introduced into what we were doing, they had a lot of hunt, a lot of nose, big mouths, and were really nice coon treaters. And we done some of that crossing, and later on, Dad wound up getting a pup that was out of Gentleman Jim, and we used some of that, and that's actually kind of where the really got started in the competition hunting. They made some of those crosses, and I had a dog at one of the first ones that we really pushed was the King dog, which was out of the Jones Southern Rambler and Tennessee Rhodey cross, and done some winning with him. I won the National Grand at Autumn Oaks with him as a teenager. That was one of my first major wins, I guess. And so we took those bloodlines and crossed them, and we wound up. I wound up with a dog called Hobo, which was out of King 2 and Jody, and Jody being going back to the old Lawson's Big Hoss and some old bloodlines that we had here initially. It went back to some Moors stock up in Tennessee, and anyway, we crossed those, and that's where we had a female out of the Gentleman Jim dog. We called him Jim, and we took a female named Sadie and crossed her with Hobo, which was the culmination of these strains that we had gathered up over the years and was hunting, and that's where the dog Dark Hollow Hobo's Hoss, that's where he came from, and we started pushing him, and that's kind of how that particular strain of black dogs kind of got started, a little bit of the background behind them. And we've just introduced some stuff, tried to keep it, it's the same bloodlines that we've had my whole life, and we're still hunting them, and so just enjoying them.
Yeah, so that Lawson stuff and Gentleman Jim stuff, that was sounds like what your foundation was to get you started there. Let's talk a little bit about Hoss. That's one of the more well known dogs that I'm aware of anyway. Right. And how was he getting started? What kind of hunting dog was he? And what was the puppies like off of him?
Most everything out of him was tree dogs, and the usually easy starting. The Hoss himself, we raised him here and kind of let him run loose, and he got himself started and started hunting him. And at that time, I had some other dogs that I was pushing. And old Hobo himself was one of my favorites and maybe the best reproducer. He just didn't, he wound up getting enlarged heart. We found that and had to put him to sleep early because of medical reasons. But he was one of my favorites. And anyway, I'd let my uncle on my mother's side, he hunted, and I let him and my cousin Jonathan, they got Hoss, and as a youngster, and they pushed him. They actually started coon hunting him and put him in a few hunts. I think they may have put him in like 5 hunts and won 4 of them or something like that. And then just some things going on that for a time they didn't get to hunt, and I wound up getting him back, and he had been laid up for, I don't know, 6 months or a year, hadn't really been hunted, and so I got him and kept him for a few days and kind of got acclimated and whatnot. And the first night I took him, he made 5 trees. He had 3 coons, 1 den, and 1 slick tree. And so we, anyway, they weren't hunting, and I'd gotten him back, so I started pushing him, and he just came on, and he was he just kind of had an amazing speed that I wasn't used to seeing and didn't see very much of. He had an ability. He had the nose and stuff from the old what I considered part of it come from the Rambler stuff and part of it from the Lawson's Big Hoss. And he could take a track and just fly with it and just basically run off and leave a lot of dogs. And then he had a if you treat 100 coons, he'd have first tree on 98 or 99 of them most of the time. He had a knack for getting treed, and it didn't matter if it was a working track, running track, just really didn't matter. He had an ability that you don't see very often, and so anyway, we got to pushing him and won quite a bit with him, and started breeding him, and some of the other, the younger hounds out of him were carrying some of those same traits, really quick locators, really quick on the ground. They could move really fast, and they could take a track and just fly with it. And so when the dogs when they've got some speed on the ground and the nose, it gives them an ability to take that track and go with it, where some are, if they don't have that ability, they're struggling a bit. So I felt like it gave us an advantage, and so just tried to keep them where they had. I always tried to keep the good mouths in there, and always liked that, the big heavier hound mouth, and something that would go hunting and go tree coons, and a personal thing for me. Some folks, it appears they like dogs that are more pack oriented, and some they like them to just try to get away from everything. And personally, I don't prefer either one of them. I like one when I cut them loose. I want them to be focused on going and finding a coon, get it treed, stay treed till I get there, and don't care what everybody else is doing. If they're with them, that's fine. If they're not with them, that's okay too. I want them to focus on coon treeing and not trying to be with dogs or trying to get away from dogs. I just like for them to just ignore them, basically. And that seems to have worked really good for me.
Yeah, and I want you to kind of touch on some of the stuff Hoss won, but before you do that, you were talking about Hobo there, had the enlarged heart stuff, and I asked this to several people. Did y'all collect those dogs back then to try to interject that later on, or did y'all just do live cover and breeding then?
Back when I had Hobo, he never had but I want to say like in the 40s, like 40 something puppies, I think was what he had, if I remember right. And and we were pretty fortunate. Like I said, he was, in my opinion, was one of the better reproducers. Just didn't get the opportunity, but he because of his health. But when we found out he had the enlarged heart, I sent him to Auburn, and they done some testing and trying to get him to respond to some medicine. They thought that we might be able to, put him on some medication, but he never would respond to it. So we had to put him to sleep. and at that time, never had really fooled with any semen. Collecting them and having it frozen. Didn't think about it. Wish I had of. But the at that point, like I said, there was not very many what I call females around that you really, the quality wasn't, or in our area wasn't that great, as far as, so it was hard to find them, and but I did try to make some pretty decent crosses, and he's, of course, Hoss was out of him, won reserve world champion, state champion, Black and Tan Days, UKC Black and Tan Days, King of Hunt. Had a sister that I hunted, won a national breed race, PKC, with her. There was a female that won, I think, third in the UKC World Hunt one year, fifth another year, and then she won the Purina race that they have, and they called her Snap, Crow Hill Candy. She was out of Hobo, and there was one that won the U.S. Championship. I don't know. There was a limited number. There was another one that I had, and I hunted him, and I got him in the final four of the first Super Stakes that they ever had. And actually, Hobo was they recognized it a little different back then, but the first year I ever got in was the second year they had PKC. I was at the National Directors meeting when Jarvis introduced that for the futurity and the Super Stake stuff and whatnot, and we had a little difference of opinion about he was a little higher on things than cost-wise than I thought everybody could afford, and so I didn't get in the first year. But the second year, I told him, I said, if you'll drop it down where your average coon hunter can afford it. Actually, at that time, the first year it was $100 a month, plus you had to pay an upfront fee. And the second year, they dropped it to $50 a month, and then I got in, and I told him, I said, I think it will grow. It'll be where people can afford it, and. So anyway, they dropped it down there, and I got in. That was the first year I got in, and the pups out of Hobo started winning, and so Hobo wound up being the Super Stakes Sire of the Year that they award. At that time, it was 2 years after you first got in, because the pups had 2 years to be in the program and to win, and so. As far as I know, I guess Hobo is he's the only other breed to ever win the Super Stakes Sire of the Year, other than a Walker dog, But anyway, he was a real nice hound, real reproducer, and I just felt like it just worked out where he didn't get the opportunity. I think he could have really been it could have been really beneficial for our breed if he would have lived longer.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like that with the limited number of pups that he had on the ground. So after that situation with him, and I definitely want to get back to Hoss and some of these other dogs you've got, but after that situation with him in your breeding program, going forward, did y'all look at collecting certain dogs? Did that change your breeding situation any after looking back on him only having that limited number of pups and what you could do in the future?
Well, it did. Later on, it did. Of course, after him came some of the other dogs, Hoss and the female that I pushed and won the breed race, Jody, and actually I had three dogs out of Hobo that I pushed that one year. I won the Jody, Jane, and Hoss, and of course with some help from Dad and some of my friends, we pushed all three of them, kept them all in the top 16. And Jody had gotten hurt early in the year. She had something had happened, and we really never knew exactly what, but she couldn't kind of, I don't know if she fell and hurt herself, but she couldn't get around very good, and it took her a little time to get over it. And by the time, a few months actually, and by the time she got over it, the other two, we had them up in the standings good, and the last hunt of the year was back at that time, they'd have a big open event the weekend before the World Hunt started, and I went up there and I hunted her because I needed some money on her to ensure she stayed in that top 16. And so I got in the final four up there at that big open hunt at the World Hunt, and we got to counting and figured it up, and I want to say it was if I win this thing, if I get them to hunt it off and I win it, that's going to put me leading the whole breed race by about $11 or $13, something like that. So I said, guys, we got to go hunting. And so we went back out, and I wound up winning that cast, and that put her winning the breed race, and I had all three of them in the top 16, and it was just kind of a small achievement that I was trying to do with that, with that strain of dogs, and then I started. So I wanted to hang on to that stuff, so I did have a hoss collected, and and then at a later time we had a dog that we won quite a bit with out of him that we called Tig, and so I had Tig collected. So that's the only two. Well, I had another one too out of hoss that I called Slam, and we tried to have Slam collected, but they took him and pulled some semen, collected some semen, and then they do a test. The folks I was familiar with, they would freeze it and then thaw it and see how it done. Well, his semen count was really good, nothing wrong with that, but they said he was one of those that was once in a while you would see, once you froze it, it just wouldn't recover. So we weren't able to collect him, but and I've still got some of that out of hoss, and we didn't do as much with Tig, but I do have a couple breedings that I've held on to, and so at some point in time I'll try to use it. I just don't know when, or somebody can, if I'm not able to.
Hey guys, this is Jason at the Coonhound Collective podcast. Maybe you've been out hunting and noticed that your dog box is getting a little beat and banged up and you're looking for something new. Well, let me help you point in the right direction here. Go see my friends over at CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Get a hold of Nathan Kaufman there on Facebook, and he can fix you up with a dog box. Make sure you tell him Jason sent you over there. He'll get you a good deal on a custom box. You'll get something that you can enjoy for years to come, that's built right, that's built to be with you for a long time. Nathan uses what he builds, and it's a quality product. Not only that, go support someone like CZ Welding and Fabrication. Nathan stepped forward, and he's donated some boxes for some raffles, some benefit hunts, some youth events that's been able to be raffled off to raise some money for those things, and we want to help those guys out that help our sport. So go over, check my friends out at CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Give Nathan Kaufman a call and do business with a true hunter. These are dog boxes built by hunters, for hunters. CZ Welding Custom Dog Boxes. Go check them out today. Yeah, and you were talking about having 3 dogs in the top 16. Did you? I would assume just by the timeline of the years and stuff, it was you probably done some burning up the roads to keep those dogs in the top 16, or was there a lot of PKC hunting around you?
Well, some of both, I guess. I guess I was a big part of getting PKC started in our area. I didn't start it. Some of the other folks did that were more involved, and but I got started, and then I did push quite a bit. I kept the roads hot for several years there when I was younger. I think, and I don't want. I think 5 out of 7 years, if I remember right, I won the national breed race. Uh, and one of those years, I sold the dog right before a dog that I had called Goose, and it was a dog that I had bought, and I wound up selling him. And the he was and he was a could have been a big asset. He was actually a crossbred dog, for that time. That you didn't hear about it a lot, but he's very uh, he had a lot of traits that was, that what these folks are winning with today. He was wild and crazy in a sense, and but now he had a nose that the other dogs just couldn't deal with. They didn't know what he was doing half the time. He would tree coons that was uh, really cold, and he would trail them up and tree them, and they didn't know. But anyway, at that time was a time in my life when I was building a house, and our second child was coming, and some folks was wanting him, and that was 30 years ago, basically, and I sold him for $9,000 back then. That was quite a bit of money for a dog, and it was money that was pretty important to me at the time, for what I was doing. And but anyway, the enough about Goose, I guess. But the other dogs, I just held on to them and pushed them, and we kept the roads hot. I did. I was at a hunt nearly every weekend, it seems like, and had some friends, that at different times went with me, and that was kind of a lifestyle at that, for several years there. Is, if they had a hunt this weekend in Tennessee or Kentucky or sometimes further, Illinois, Indiana, wherever, I kind of looked at it with the mindset, they can't have that hunt without me being there. They just can't put it on without me being a part of it, So I had to hit the road, and it was just a thing. I guess I had a drive that made me want to be there and compete, and it was just fun. It was a lifestyle for me back then.
Yeah, and I understand that because I can, relate to you go and you start winning a few here and there, and that just, man, that just fires you up to want to go to more, and also and especially back in those days, the camaraderie around the clubhouse. Guys would get there early and they'd sit around and they'd talk dogs and tell stories and stuff like that. And I know we still have some of that today, but I think in certain areas we've probably lost a little bit of that. Sitting around talking, people, roll in right before deadline, which a lot of the hunts nowadays are, during the week and people are getting off work and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, it was chasing and seeing them folks every weekend or whatnot. It was uh, you get to know a lot of people, met a lot of friends, and folks say, "What's your biggest achievement coon hunting?" I said, "All the friends I've made." I said, "I've had fun with the dogs. I've done some winning. I'm very blessed, fortunate to have been able to do, what little I've done, in comparison to others. But I said, I have enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun. But my biggest thing is the friendships that I've made. I don't know as many now, but for several years there was very few states in the U.S. that I didn't know people, and I could pick up the phone and call, and they'd say, "Hey, come on out if you want to," So when when you're fortunate enough to have friends like that, and to just enjoy and go visit with them and enjoy the dogs and stuff, that's something that from my perspective, money can't buy it. It's just the experience, and so it was a lifestyle for me for many years, and slowed down some now as I gotten older, but still try to hunt and compete some, and but I don't have that drive that I had when I was 25 now.
Yeah, and you're right. I've through this podcast and talking to coon hunters and coon hunting. I've developed some friendships that are almost like brotherships more than friendships. Some guys that I
Right.
talk to every day on the phone and or every other day, and we talk dogs and we talk work or whatever, and those things are priceless
Oh
in the
yeah.
big scheme of things.
Yeah, there's I've been very fortunate and made a lot of friends, and just thankful for that. And the and that was one of the things about the Black and Tan group. It just seemed like maybe it's because I grew up around them and was with them more, but it just seemed like there was a closer bond there. It seemed like to me, and it was like when you went to Black and Tan days or one of the Black and Tan hunts, it was like going to a kind of like a big family reunion, so to speak. And so I'd, been very fortunate to and some of the folks that I've partnered with, I'll talk a little bit about them, but it's not to take away from all the friendships of the other people, but Blaze Bauer out in Kansas went out many times and stayed at his house, and he and I like family. And Troy Cornell out there, he's another one that was a part of this kind of that time frame and dealing with the dogs. And Brian Reese and I in Tennessee, Brian and I have been super close friends, and had dogs together a time or two, and he's family to me. He's like a little brother to me. And Sonny Phillips in Ohio, we've owned dogs, and Sonny and I, we had a female that placed second in the UKC World Hunt. He was hunting her, and Brian and I, we've had a dog or two, and we won a Queen Hunt at Black and Tan Days, UKC, and of course Blaze and I, most folks at Coon Hunting know some of the dogs we've had, Kansas Junior, Kansas Jim, that being a start of the dogs that a lot of the dogs we got today, they were out of old Hoss and that I had, and Blaze is Jewel female, and so we promoted Jim and Junior for several years there, and had a lot of fun, and but it's so many more that I didn't own dogs with, but we were really close friends, and some of them come to visit, or I'd go visit them, and it's just a bond, a friendship that. And so to me, that's my greatest accomplishment in coon hunting is all the friends that I've made. And I wouldn't trade them for a new world champion now. I wouldn't swap my friendships and all that for the best winner out there. It's not worth it in comparison to the friends.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there for sure. And you were, you're talking about those guys there, and it's kind of a common theme that I see when I talk to guys on this podcast, uh, all across the country. It takes a group of people working together for the same goal to promote a breed or a certain line of dogs to really come out with something special, and it sounds like to me that's definitely what's happened with your line of dogs and some of these guys that you partner on with, like Blaze and Troy and some of those guys there that you've partnered with. It really does take working together in my opinion anyway, working together to really bring out something special in some of these breeds.
Are you tired of whipping, scolding, and shocking to make them get alone? Is your buddy tired of helping you set your dog up for correction night after night? Do you really want your dog to be alone because you forced him to be? Or would you rather him be alone because he wants to be? Grand Night Champion Small Town Lone Survivor is the product of over 25 years of strong natural-born independent traits. This bold trait has been passed down from generation to generation and is showing up in Loner offspring today. Loner is a direct son of Hall of Fame Grand Night Champion Cabin Creek Rowdy and Grand Night Champion Lonesome Dove Lori. Loner has a booming mouth that is talked about in every cast he has been in, including the 2021 World Hunt Finals. Loner is a no-reverse, ball-mouth open trailer who ends it plussed up with a huge dying locate and steady chop. Loner loves getting split and is a stay-put gun-pressure tree dog. Loner's intelligence is also impressive. He knows over 12 voice and hand signal commands. Loner has a character that loves like Jesus, but he doesn't walk on water. If you're interested in breeding to Loner, contact Brett Stevens at Small Town English Kennels at 417-300-3777 or find him on Facebook.
If you're interested in running a stud ad for your dog here on the Coonhound Collective podcast, reach out to us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Send us a message through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll be glad to get with you to get you an ad built and get you pricing on all of our ads.
I think you're right. A lot of the breeding and stuff that I tried to kind of keep tabs on what's out there, what crosses are doing what, and one in particular in recent years, the Preston Null, and Preston came over and bred Wendy to a dog that I had, called him Dark Hollow Big Money, and so that I saw those pups taking off, and there's so I went and bought one of them, and Eddie Muse down in Mississippi had one of them, and I wound up buying it from him, and he had been hunted a time or two, but he didn't, he's pretty green, but he just took off, went to Tree and Coons and a dog that I call Boone, and but that's been a very prominent, a strong cross that's done very well. A lot of dogs out there now that are out of that cross or a result, and it wasn't nothing particular that I had done or that Preston had done, because there was a lot of stuff behind that. I think they got Wendy from Mike Crockett over in Mississippi, and Mike, I don't know who all was on further back involved, but most of the black and tan guys, that are into the breeding program and stuff, and but with that being said, there's a lot of never want to take it, feel like that or even have people think that I want them to feel that way is that I've done it. It's not me. It's a collective of so many people involved, that somebody makes a cross, it's working, and and it's got the traits that you're looking for, and you get you something out of that and cross with what you've got, and see what that does, and it takes all of us, and so there's, you got to have somebody making those crosses, you got to have somebody starting those dogs, raising them and starting them, and then somebody pushing them, promoting them, and so it's a collective thing, and I always try to, because I really feel that way. My hat's off to everyone involved. The dogs that blaze, and then I've had. I've got one that I really like out of Top that he had, and there's a big, from my perspective, I made a cross back when we had Jim. I made a cross to some stuff. There was a dog here that was was out of old Jody that I won the national breed race with, and the first time we bred Jim, Blaze said, "Well, you can breed her the first time," and I said, "Okay." And so he said, "Where are you going to breed her to?" And I told him, I said, "A dog called Clear Creek Rocker." I said, I started him and sold him to one of my friends here because his dog had got killed, and I said he was making a really nice young dog, but I just gotten him started. But we had an agreement that if he ever sold him, that I'd get him back, and our first chance at him at least, and he never sold him. But so when I made that cross, there was one of those dogs that wound up, Angie Reed in Ohio wound up with one of those. And so she's done some breeding and some crossing, and so some of the things that Blaze, the top dog that he's had quite a bit of success with, and then some dogs out of him, they came from a dog that, my understanding, she was the one that made that cross and produced a dog called Bruce Almighty, and he was out of a dog that she had that I let her have out of the cross out of Jim and Rocker, and she called him Sweet Home Alabama. So, she got some of it and done her thing with it, and then later on, Blaze, liked what was there, I guess, and he made, don't know who all was involved in that. It was a little bit, Blaze is about 12 hours from 11 or 12, so it's hard to keep up with all that's going on out there in his neighborhood. But anyway, that's just to show you that somebody, it's not always just us who are promoting and hunting. Sometimes it's those folks that are not on the forefront, not pushing and promoting, but they've done their part to raise and train a hound and promote them as far as making some crosses, and and sometimes that's where some of the good stuff comes from, is from my perspective. So, I look back and thankful to each one who's had a part in it.
Yeah, for sure. And it does take those guys in the background, helping out. And you mentioned Eddie Muse. I had him on the podcast several episodes back, and talked with Jay Tidwell on the phone a few times. And I actually have a dog here out of Troy and Blaze's Chuck dog here at the house now, and I'm going to have Blaze and Troy on here in the future, and we just haven't got together to set that up. And it's amazing to me that you talk to these people and you hear their story, and how somewhere along the lines all these stories cross paths or connect somewhere later on down the road.
Yeah. And it's some of those things that, and with Blaze and I, when we got, I didn't even remember it. I think he reminded me, he had called, and I didn't know Blaze Bauer at that time, but it's when I had Hoss, and he had called and got some, I think I'd shipped him some semen out there, out of Hoss, and so they had raised that litter, and he had Jim and Junior, and then I guess to give credit elsewhere, we was going to the National Directors Meeting for PKC, and Mr. Roy Trammell was a good friend of mine, and he put, he was their field rep at the time, or whatever his title was. But anyway, they would set up our rooms and everything and have them ready when we got there. So he had Blaze and I rooming together, and he said, "I put you guys together because y'all like them old black dogs," and he's laughing. Well, little did he know that, from my perspective, putting us together, and we spent the weekend up there just having fun and coon hunting, and in the meeting and stuff. And when we left there, I brought Jim home with me, and started hunting her, and we're very fortunate, done some winning with her. He and I both. And Blaze, he won a truck with her. And the first time I went out there, we had the dogs registered, or they already had them there. We just changed the partnership, membership, and left them in Kansas. And so I went out there, and the first time I went to Kansas for the state championship, I was hunting Jim, and I won the Kansas state championship with her. And there's a good bunch of people out there. From my perspective, I really enjoyed it. Every time I went out there, they were good people, and they were always cutting up, having fun, and they were ribbing me. Well, how did a redneck from Alabama come out here and win our state championship? And we laughed about it and stuff. But had Roy Trimble not put us in the same room together up there, I don't know that would have ever happened exactly that way. So sometimes it's the small stuff that happens that you're not expecting, but it makes a big impact on life going forward. And like I said, that Blaze and I are, from my way I look at it, we're family, and that's just the way we are. And just thankful that it did work out that way. But sometimes it's a small thing that creates a big turn in what happens going forward.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And you talked about driving out to Kansas, winning the state championship, and I'm not sure what year that is, but I was looking back through some stuff, and it's there looks like some winning going on in 95, 96, and then in 98, but 1997 seemed like a big year for you all, especially with Hoss. I think PKC World Reserve Champion, Black and Tan Days. What was y'all just burning the roads up more then, or was y'all just hitting the right hunts at the right time?
Well, I don't know. It was, depends on what work was doing and what life was doing. Sometimes you were able to go more and promote more, and sometimes it was the goals. And to be honest with you, I liked PKC and had been hunting, and I never had really promoted Hoss too much in UKC. And not me it being negative, but sometimes you got folks who have their own way of looking at things, and there were some, the reason them guys hunt Hoss dog, reason they hunt PKC is because you don't have to have coons to win. I don't think they could win in UKC. So with that being said, it kind of, I guess, it kind of lit a spark that I thought, well, just to prove the naysayers wrong, as they say, I decided I would promote him. So I finished him, went to putting him in the UKC hunts, finished him the Grand Night, made it to the top 100 at the UKC World Hunt that year, or in that time frame. I don't remember exactly what year it was. And then I went to Black and Tan Days and won King of Hunt at Black and Tan Days with him. And so he was pretty special. And I guess when some folks say something a little bit negative, it kind of sparks you a little bit, makes you drive a little harder. And so I guess, in all honesty, that was probably a little bit of it. But and then sometimes it's just opportunity. We promoted the dogs, and Junior, Kansas Junior that Blaze had when we were at that PKC hunt up there at the National Directors Meeting. Actually, he wanted me to bring Junior home with me so I could hunt it at the Super Stakes. He wasn't going to get to make it, and so I was going to bring him home with me. But he while we were there, he had, I guess, strained himself, pulled something. Anyway, he was hurting and kind of swollen at his around his hip area back there, and we didn't know for sure what it was. and I told him I didn't want to take a dog, and I'd rather he had him so he could make decisions if he needed something medically, and so I wound up with Jim, but I kept her and finished her, in the hunts and stuff, and done a bunch of winning, and then Blaze later on, and I'm going to ballpark and say they were about 5 or 6 year old at the time, and I may be off base, but anyway, we were hunting, and Blaze said, I hadn't hunted Jim in a long time. He said, I'd like to take her home or keep her at my house and hunt her for a while. I said, well, that's fine. You own as much of her as I do, and but we had there was the bigger hunts were coming up, and he and I had Jim, and then he had Junior, and I think they had Marty, female that they had out there, and he and Justin owned her. So anyway, I said, Blaze, what are you going to hunt at PKC Black and Tan Days? I said, if you take Jim home with you, what are you going to hunt out there? I said, if you're going to hunt her, then I need something to hunt. And he said, you have to know Blaze. He has a funny way of looking at things sometimes. And I said, do you want me to take Junior home and hunt him? He said, why would you want to do that? You don't even own none of him. I said, well, but I need something to hunt out there. And I said, I don't care if he belongs to you or me. That doesn't matter. I said, but this is what we got qualified. And so he said, well, if you want to take him, go ahead. So I brought Junior home, and I went to hunting him, and we put on a pretty nice run that year. Very fortunate. Brought him home and hunted him and hunted the hair off of him for a little while, as they say, and got him really dialed in, and went to PKC Black and Tan Days in Texas. And had a added purse hunt for Thursday. I got in the final four of that. We split. I had the championship hunt, top 16 on Friday. I won the early round, got in the final four, went back out and hunted, and I won. So I won Black and Tan Days with him. And then Saturday night they had another big open, and I got in the final four again. And so came home, and I took him to the Nationals, and I got in the top 6 at the PKC Nationals. And then a little bit later went to the World Hunt and got in the final four at the World Hunt. So we had a pretty good run there. And anyway, we wound up partnering on him and promoting him and pushing him too. But sometimes, like I said, it's just opportunity. Things. Blaze made his mind up. He wanted to hunt Jim, and I think about that time he took her. He had got a ticket to the truck hunt, and so he decided to hunt Jim down there, and he went down and wound up winning the truck with Jim. So sometimes it's just opportunity. It just presents itself, and you just grab a hold of it and run, as they say, and it works out. So that's kind of part of it too,
Yeah, and I'm gonna back up there just a little bit. You were talking about some of the UKC guys saying this, and I've heard it both ways. It don't take coons to win in PKC, and then I've heard, other people say, well, the UKC dogs can't hunt with the PKC dogs, and it's all the same dogs. It's just how this is my opinion. It's just how you go out and you prepare yourself for it. And I don't care what registry you're hunting. If you got a dog that trees coons, you're going to beat the dog that don't tree coons 10 times out of 10. They just ain't no way around it.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I've heard those same stories, and the person. And what I tell them, I said, "Hey guys, from my perspective, I said, look, when I had Hoss, he was a PKC Platinum champion. He was a UKC Grand Night champion. The same way with Tig, and Jim and Junior. They had big titles in PKC. Jim was a platinum. I don't remember if Junior made it to platinum, but he was close. And but they were grand nights too, and we hunted. And I told him, I said, most of the time, I said, I think you guys, from my way of looking at it, I said, most of the time, if you go to a PKC hunt this week, and next week you go to a UKC hunt, you're drawing a lot of the same people, and it's the same dogs. And a part of it, I feel like, is back in a long time ago. And once you grand nighted them in UKC, what was you going to do with them? You could go to a big hunt once in a while, but PKC, you could keep hunting them and keep hunting them. So it was actually an avenue to take your dog, if you enjoyed them, to go. You title them and get them grand night in UKC, and then you go hunt PKC, so you could hunt on a regular basis and just keep promoting them and enjoying them. So it's the same dogs. I agree with you. That's I don't know where the different ideas came up, but I get tickled at some of those guys. They say, "Oh man, this one right here make a real PKC dog. Oh, you can win with him." Say he makes so many trees. You don't hardly ever have a coon. I said, "Well, you can't win with him in PKC no better than you can the others." I said, "Because if you go out there, you better be treeing coons, and you better be having them coons, and those are the ones that win, if they go do their job and get the coons treed, and get treed, stay treed, do what they're supposed to do. They'll take you to the pay window and get your picture took, so you can be successful. But I don't know. I guess it's just a mindset of you don't have to have a coon to win a PKC cast. That's true. But, you go out there and no matter how good a dog you got, if the coon aren't moving, sometimes you really struggle, no matter what kind of good hound you got, you struggle to have, get a coon treat on the outside. So I felt like a PKC just, I enjoyed it because, you did have a winner. Not to say anything negative about either one of them. I still hunt both and still enjoy them, and I think it's just a different mindset, for different people.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to be speaking out of turn here because I do know Tyler, and the dog that won the UKC World, that final cast, she literally put on a clinic of how to get in there and tree coons, and I think I can speak on behalf of Tyler just because I've hunted with him. He hunts predominantly PKC. That if you want to call a dog a PKC dog, I believe Jenna is more of a PKC dog, and he look what he did with her this year, and what an accomplishment to do. And
Yeah.
and I'm like you, I hunt both. I hunt UKC and I hunt PKC. I do hunt more PKC than I do UKC, but we have a hunt once a month at our club, and I'm fortunate enough in the area that I live. I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours from where Troy and Blaze are, and I'm about the same distance down to Cheyenne Cummins and Tyler and Brandon Gaines and some of those guys. So we have quite a few clubs here, so it presents an opportunity for me to be able to go out and hunt more PKC. But just real quick, whenever I was 17 years old, we had our club, and I'm from Alabama originally, like we talked before, in Ashford, Alabama. We had a club there. We had a PKC hunt, and as a young man, I didn't know the rules. It felt like I got cheated on that cast, and I said, I'm done. I'm not hunting PKC anymore. And I didn't for a long time. I hunted UKC, AKC, and I stayed away from it. Just because I was done wrong that one time. Well, that was just, that's kind of like a drive-by snapshot picture of one event. And looking back now, had I known the rules the way I needed to know them to really be out there competing in that event, I probably could have had a different outcome. But I didn't know what was going on. So now, many years later, it's kind of flip flop where, I enjoy going out and hunting PKC with these guys that I get the opportunity to hunt with. And not only that, I've drawn out with a dog that won the PKC World Championship at an open event. You're not going to get to do that at a UKC event, to see how these dogs operate, to see if you have anything that will even stack up close to what these dogs are that's going out and winning. And that's one of the things I enjoy about PKC is all the dogs draw out together.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the things that recently we was talking at a went to a UKC hunt, and we were talking about that is UKC used to you had your registered dogs, you had your night champions, and you had your grand nights. Well, now then the grand nights and the night champions hunt together, and we were talking about it. And I said, well, I honestly don't know if they're not going to separate all of them. I don't know why they don't have them all hunt together. I said, if you go to a PKC hunt, you don't have platinum champions and silver champions and different ones. They're not segregated. They're not separated from one. If you go, you may have won $37 on this dog, and this other may have won $20,000, and you draw out together. And I think, in all honesty, I'm not sure that don't. When you draw dogs that have achieved that, it puts you. You see a different. You see a different grade of hound ability-wise, so that it lets you see what you're not doing. If you don't win, it lets you see what you're not doing and what you need to improve on. So it's so I don't know what the UKC has in store, but somebody said they thought maybe they were going to change it to where, and I'm not positive about that, but it just was hearsay basically. But so we'll see what happens going forward. But I think I try to take it where I try to look at things and see, hey, what's going on here that that I can improve on and get better at competing and still keep dogs that I enjoy hunting. I like from my perspective, more of an honest style dog. I like one that is a good strike dog, but I want them to be honest. When I got to hunt them. I used to, when I was growing up, you had hunts on the weekend, Friday and Saturday. If you want to go to a hunt, you had to drive a lot of times. But especially with the PKC, I'd drive to Tennessee or Kentucky pretty regular to get to a big PKC hunt. But back then, you might have 80 to 120 dogs. That was pretty common. Now then, you don't, not so much. You have so many of them. But the thing about it was, I'd go watch them and see. But I told them, I said, I hunt these dogs. Back then, I hunted basically 6 nights a week. I used, most of the time I didn't hunt on Sunday, unless it was somebody came to visit or whatnot. But anyway, I said I go to a competition hunt 2 nights a week, and I pleasure hunt the rest of them. I said I want to enjoy those nights when I'm out pleasure hunting. I want to enjoy what I'm hunting. So for me, I like a good, honest dog, and I know there's some styles of dog that some people like, and they do their part of the winning, and it gives them an advantage. But I just don't like that. I mean, not if they like it, that's fine, that's theirs. But I just don't prefer it. So I always liked a good, honest dog. It's a good strike dog. Go hunting good. Go tree coons. Do what you need to do, and if you got that, you'll do some winning. You'll enjoy you'll reap the benefits. I feel like, but like I said, hunting in the different, and for me back then, actually, I guess when it first started for me, I was hunting PKC pretty hard. I had a dog that I called Dark Hollow Mac, and I won quite a bit with him. I think I won the breed race twice with him, and the second time I'd really pushed that year, and it was like the first week of September, right along in there, and I was actually leading the nation, and so he got out of pocket on us. He took a coon up and put it in the ground up on the side of a ridge, and he dropped off the other side, and he got on a highway before we could get around there, and so I lost him. But he wound up winning the breed race, and somebody else. There was a few that got ahead of him, and he had another month or so to hunt. And but Roy Trammell called me and asked me to judge at the World Hunt since my dog had got killed, and so I wound up judging up there, and it really gave me some. I got to see dogs going, and dogs that were winning, and I was judging them. And so over the next several years, I'd done quite a bit of judging at times. For several years, Tony Swinford is another one that he and I were really good friends, and we run the roads together. And for several years there, we would go to the World Hunt, and we'd judge. Other than the nights that we hunted our own dogs, we judged every night, and so it lets you see who's winning, what they got. You can compare. It was really a good learning curve, I felt like, and so it's easy to kind of get yourself in a corner, so to speak, and not realize what's out there. What is available. But if you get out there and see who's winning and what's really going on, and it was a lot of fun to me. I really enjoyed it. Judging in the Super Stakes and the World Hunts and Pro Hunts and stuff like that. You get to see a lot of nice hounds and meet a lot of nice people, and it was a good learning curve. And I feel like I learned quite a bit from that, and so I've got to apply that to the dogs that I've had, and what we were doing with them, and so anyway, if they don't know a lot about it and they're interested in getting started and promoting, or at least enjoying and reaping the benefits of it, it's not a bad thing if you can go to some of the bigger hunts and maybe just spectate, or get to where you know the rules and do some judging and whatnot. You can draw out with some good dogs, and you get to see a lot of some stuff that you might not see just staying at home and hunting your local hunts.
Yeah, and I'm the hunt director here at our club for PKC, and one of the things that's helped me really with the rules is, if we have a cast, I don't always judge, but I try to judge 90% of the hunts that we have, at least if I'm on the cast, and that really helps you with the rules, and you can tote that little rule book with you, and you got time to during a cast, you say, well, I don't really know the rules good enough to judge. Well, you're never going to know them good enough to judge unless you put yourself out there, and you can pull that rule book out and scroll through it. And really, at these open events, most of these guys they're willing to help you. If, hey guys, I don't really know the rules exactly everything 100%. I know the times and stuff like that, so I may need a little help there. And I would say 99.9% of the guys be like, hey, don't worry about it. We'll help you out. And it ain't that we'll help you out to benefit us or nothing else. They truly are there to help you out. And as far as seeing the caliper of dogs, you also we talked a little bit yesterday, and you were kind of telling me a story here about a dog you recently got and made it up into the UKC World Hunt this year. When you're out there and you're judging and you're spectating, you get to see some dogs, and some dogs that you might want to purchase and own, too, or see what you need to be hunting. But won't you tell us the story of the dog that you have now, and kind of what you saw in the dog and what you liked, and then what you found out after the fact?
Well, it's like I said, the last couple of years I hadn't been able to. I've got a nice hound here that's out of Blaze's top dog, and I really like Thunder, and he is pretty special. Done a little breeding, and he's with him, and the pups are really coming on good. But so I didn't have anything qualified. I hadn't been to the hunch and stuff, so went to Black and Tan days, and just to go visit and see everybody and look at the dogs, and so I done a little spectating up there. And one of those casts went with Jamie Perrin had a dog called Bottomland Mule, and he had bought him from Randy Smith over in Mississippi, and so we went on a cast with him and the Deuce dog, and anyway, we had a nice cast, and got to see him, and I really liked what I saw out of Mule. He's went hunting good, was by himself most of the time. Dogs treed with him. He didn't mind nobody being with him. He just went coon hunting, and that's my style of dog. That's what I like. He went hunting. Biggest part of the time, when he got struck, he'd get treed. Was split treed and quite a bit, and just impressed me. Because what he done, his style, and just had that attitude that I like. He went coon hunting and didn't care what everybody else was doing. If you want to come along, fine. If you don't, that's okay. But I'm going to tree a coon. And so anyway, opened good on the ground. Had a big, nice ball mouth and a good tree dog, and had coons when he got treed. So I was looking at breeding to him, at some point in time, and anyway, opportunity. I was telling one of my friends here, a couple of them, that I'd hunted with the dog, really liked him, and he wasn't the only one that I hunted with up there, and some of the others I liked, but I did like Mule. He's but I was telling some of them about him, and anyway, was talking about breeding to him, and anyway, got to talking to Jamie and just the situation. I don't know all involved, but anyway, opportunity come up to buy him, and I bought the dog, and so we bought him and started hunting, and I bought him 1 week before the PKC World Hunt, the zone qualifiers or whatever they had, and started hunting him, and I still hadn't saw the papers on him, but I got to hunting him, and we didn't do any good at the zone, but I did go to the World Hunt, and went up there on Wednesday and won 2 casts, and got in the semifinals, and had a really, really enjoyable time. And I drew the dog that wound up beating me was Cheyenne Cummins' dog, the young dog they had that wound up winning the World Hunt, and he was the one that put me out. And it was the first dump. Mine, theirs treated coon, and mine was. We were all kind of scattered out. And each one of theirs treated coon, and mine got our track and it went to ground. And so that was just a bad break. And then he skips on through there, and he gets struck and comes treed in there a little later, and we go into him, and he's got a den tree. So when things are happening like that, it's just I always say, well, it's probably just not our night, but we wound up turning loose again, treated another coon, and Randy was hunting. He was hunting the dog for Cheyenne. I don't know who all's if they're partners or whatever on the dog. I don't know all that, but Anyway, we they wound up winning the cast, and but I got my papers while I was up there, and I had told some of them, I said, man, this dog, I'm enjoying him so far. And I said, it's just amazing to me how much I see a lot of the old hobo dog. I said, he is so similar to him in a lot of things that he does. The way he goes hunting, the way he opens his mouth, the way he trails, just a lot of similarities, his looks, his build. I said, man, it's just crazy how much he reminds me of him. Well, I get the papers and I go to looking at him, and I figure it's a good reason that he might do that, because in his background there, his mama goes back to hobo on both sides, and his daddy he goes back to him at least on one side. So there's quite a bit of influence, very possibly from hobo, being there. So he acts very similar to him in a lot of ways. Now we haven't started breeding him yet, but we're going to try to. And if he'll reproduce like hobo did, then we may have something pretty special. So we'll try that. But it was kind of funny to me that I done told him, hey, man, he really reminds me of hobo a lot. And then I get his papers and go to looking at them, and it's a lot of hobo back in there.
Yeah, and I wanted you to tell that because, it just amazes me. You didn't know really what the dog was out of, but, probably somewhere deep down inside you had to think, man, there's got to be some hobo in this dog somewhere. I see these traits that I've seen in other dogs and then in hobo himself. So, I just think that's just a testament to good, strong breeding, there for sure.
Well, it's and like I said, there again, those same traits that I saw in my old dog, I see in this one, and I always really enjoyed hunting hobo, and really liked him, and and then seeing this dog acting so much like him reminded me of him. It was kind of a kind of self-rewarding to look and see that he did have so much of that influence in the blood, back in there. But, and then it goes back to another thing, without these other people making these crosses and doing it, I had nothing to do with it up close. He's several crosses that other people have made that I didn't have a thing to do with, but I'm thankful that every one of them had a part in it, because I'm getting to enjoy this nice dog, and talked to Randy this morning, and chatted with him a little bit, and I thanked him. I said, man, you've done a super job, I feel like, training this dog and getting him going, and he was pretty high on him. He really liked him. But there's so there again, it's a lot of times it's not all we do. It's what everybody else does. Then it all comes together, and it can be rewarding for a lot of people, in different at different times, So we'll see what he reproduces, and plan on hunting him and promoting him some, and I don't know how much big winning we'll do, but I expect we'll do some winning, because he is a nice dog, and when you cut him loose, he goes and does his job, gets treed. Most of the time, he's got a coon, and if you got something that's doing that consistently, you'll get your picture took. You'll get to go to the pay window. So we're looking forward to seeing what that turns into, and like I said, we going to try to do some breeding and see what he'll reproduce, and we got the Thunder dog, and he's a little bit older, and we've already bred a couple females, and those nice youngsters some people's got that they're enjoying, and I'm tickled to see what they're doing. You know, they send me videos, and they're treeing coons, and they're hunting them by themselves, and they're cutting them loose, and they're leaving, you know, like they're late for work, as the old saying is, and you know, they go hunting good and getting their mouth open and look like they're going to be real competitive. So looking forward to see what he'll do, and just hunted him a little bit in the hunts, got a couple wins on him, but that was before I got sick, and anyway, had some personal issues dealing with, you know, some health and the COVID and all that monkey business. But anyway, we're getting lined out now, and we'll see what happens. And I've got a sister to Thunder, a younger, that's really coming on good, and her litter mates are doing real well, and that's probably what we'll do. I'll cross her with Mule later on, and so looking forward to see what that would do. You know, crossing the two dogs that really enjoying and having fun with now, being able to cross, you know, some of those strains and see what it turns into.
Yeah, and we definitely look to see you and Mule with your picture taken in the future for sure. I think that's just a given that's going to happen. And you know, we've been at it an hour and almost 20 minutes, and I feel like we could probably go for another hour and 20 minutes, but I don't want to hold you up. I do appreciate you taking the time. If you don't have anything else to add in there, do you have a coon hunting story that you could share with us?
I probably got a bunch of them. I guess one of them was kind of funny. We was at the Alabama State PKC hunt, and I was hunting hoss at the time, and we had pulled a minus in a hole or something. Anyway, I treated him on a locate. When he started out with it, you could tree him, and I think, if I remember right, that's been several years, but I treated him, and me and somebody else, and it wound up being in the ground. We pulled a minus, so we got behind. We didn't do a lot of coon treeing in that cast, but the last turnout we pulled up there to, but we were having fun. It was having a blast out there, you know, hunting, and we pulled up to a little creek on a little back road, and we sent them down this bottom right beside this creek, and I got old Hoss out, and I said, "Now come here. I need to talk to you, Hoss." I said, "I got to explain something to you." I said, "Look, we're not where we need to be right now." And them guys are laughing, you know, at me over there talking to that dog, and I said, "Look, here's what I need you to do. When I cut you loose, I need you to get in there and tree a coon super fast, and we need to shut these dogs out so we can win." I said, "Now that's what we need to do. We need to pull a shut out here and get a coon tree. If we'll do that," I said, "we can win." So they're laughing, and so anyway, we cut loose and down this little creek bottom and down beside off this little road, and I'm going to say within 2 or 3 minutes, he's sitting in yonder, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards, and just explodes on a tree. And I struck him and treed him on the one bark. And of course, he settles down there, and we go in there, and he's got a coon, and I wound up winning the cast, and wound up hunting the Final Four and won the state championship. But those guys, when we got the dog, they come back up through there, they said, "Bruce, does that dog really know what you're saying to him?" So it was, it was a lot of fun, and it just so happened that he did what I asked him to do, you know. So it was kind of funny, and that's one of those things that kind of stick in your mind, and those guys talk about it later, you know. I remember that time you told that dog, and he done just what you said. So they don't always do that, but when you have those, it's a lot of fun,
Yeah,
So
that's a great story, and we would probably be surprised at how much our dogs would listen to them if we talked to them the right way, for sure.
that's true. That is true.
Well, Mr. Bruce, I tell you what, it's been a pleasure to talk with you today. It's been a little over an hour and 20 minutes. And like I said, I think we could probably go for another hour and 20 minutes, because I can talk dogs for forever. And I think we've covered a lot of history there, and a lot of breeding, and a lot of people that you've met along the way. And hopefully in the future, maybe I'll get to meet you at a hunt somewhere and shake your hand, and maybe we get to go hunting together sometime. And I would really, really enjoy that. But if you don't have anything else that you can think to add, I think we're to a place that we could probably shut it down here.
Sounds good. I really, really enjoyed the opportunity, and enjoyed chatting with you. And I always enjoy talking dogs, and it's something that's dear to my heart, and I can sit and talk for hours. But anyway, I appreciate the opportunity, and hope you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you don't mind, head over to Facebook and give us a like, and head over to Instagram and give us a follow. It's both at the Coonhound Collective. Also, if you would like to reach us here at the Coonhound Collective, you can reach us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. If there's someone that you would like to hear on the podcast, or a product that you would like to hear talked about, please send it to thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.